माधव कुंज बिहारी जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण ओके हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे विष्णुपाद परमहंस आचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रीमती श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की आनंद कोटि वैष्णववृंद की नामचर श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की समवेत भक्तवृंद की all glories to the Assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the Assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the Assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga all glories to Srila Prabhupada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Okay, somebody want to put it up? Who's putting it up? Okay. One, this is 3139. Nobody has their phone. Okay. All right. I got it. Let me see. I'll do the verse and then we can switch after I finish up. Okay. I guess I'll just do it like this. Yamo utasvit tanyo prathayaha Parthaihi Vritau Pakshmavihi Akshini Iva Remate Uddaya Mridhe Swariktham Parat Suparno Iva Vajri Vaktrat Yamautsvetanayo prathayah Parthairitau pakshmabhir akshiniva. Rimata uddaya mridheswariktham. Parat suparna viva vajri vaktrat. Yamavutsave tanayo prathayah. Parthairvitau pakshmabhir akshiniva. Remata uddaya mridheswariktham. Parat suparna viva vajri vaktrat. Yamavutsave tanayo prathayah. Parthairitau pakshmabhir akshiniva. Remata uddaya mridheswariktham. Parat suparna viva vajri vaktrat. Okay, please repeat. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not used to that. Okay. Imavutsav Prataya. Paratsuparnaviva Vajrivatrat.
Yamavutasvittanayo prathaya.
Yamavutasvittanayo prathaya.
Parthairvrito pakshmabhirakshiniva. Remata uddaya mridheswariktham.
Remata uddaya mridheswariktham.
Paratsuparnaviva vajrivaktra.
Paratsuparnaviva Vajrivatrat. Okay, we're going to quickly switch and then. You got it?
Yamavutasvittanayo prathaya.
Yamavutasvittanayo prathaya.
Parthairvrito pakshmabhir akshiniva. Remata udaya mridheswariktham. Parat suparna viva vajri vaktrat.
Yamavutasvittanayo prathaya.
Yamavutasvittanayo prathaya.
Parthairvrito pakshmabhirakshiniva. Remata uddaya mridheswariktham. Parat suparnaviva vajrivaktrat.
Okay, mothers. Anyone else? Okay. All right, so Yamo twins, Nakula and Sahadev. Utsavet, weather. Tanayo, sons. Prathayah, of Pratha. Parthahi, by the sons of Pratha. Pratha, protected. Pakshamibihi, by shields. Akshini, of the eyes. Iva, like. Remate, playing carelessly. Yeah. Uddaya, snatching. Mridhe, in the fight. Swarviktam, own property. Parat, from the enemy Duryodhana. Suparna, Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu. Iva, like. Vajri Vaktrat, from the mouth of Indra. Okay, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation: are the twins who are protected by their brothers doing well? Just as the eye is protected by the eyelid, they are protected by the sons of Pratha, who snatched back their rightful kingdom from the hands of the enemy, Duryodhana. Just as Garuda snatches nectar from the mouth of Indra, the thunderbolt carrier. Purport: Indra, the king of heaven, carries a thunderbolt in his hand and is very strong. Yet Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, was able to snatch nectar from his mouth. Similarly, Duryodhana was as strong as the king of heaven, and still the sons of Pratha, the Pandavas, were able to snatch away their kingdom from Duryodhana. Both Garuda and Parthas are pet devotees of the Lord, and thus it was possible for them to face such strong enemies. Vidura's inquiry about the youngest brother of Pandavas, namely Nakula and Sahadev, these twins were son of Madri, the stepmother of other Pandavas. But although they were stepbrothers, because Kunti took charge of them after the departure of Madri with her husband Maharaj Pandu, Nakula and Sahadev were as good as the other three Pandavas, Yudhishthira, Bhima, and Arjuna. The five brothers are known in the world as regular brothers. The three elder Pandavas took care of the younger brothers, just as the eyelid takes care of the eye. Vidura was anxious to know whether, after winning their kingdom back from the hands of Duryodhana, the younger brothers were still living happily under the care of the elder brothers. Om Jnana Tivirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishram Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dati Swapatantikam Pandehang Shri Guru Shyatapatakalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagar Chatam Sakana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savaditam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiv Shakhan Vitam Shah He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavandu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavane Shri Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripe Vanchakalpatarivescha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swami Tinavane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinavane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharya Nirvisa Shunyavadi Paschatya Desharine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tinir Smarana Hoy Vigna Vinashana Nayashe Hai Nijavanchita Purana Yanananda Mayam Devam Nirmashpatikakri Madaram Sarva Vidyanam Hai Gribam Upasmahe. So, continue the discussion here in the third canto. Sorry, my voice is completely out, so I'll try my best not to to be able to speak properly. Let me know if you're not able to understand what I'm saying. Then I'll try to make myself more clear. Okay, first, welcome to the Hungarian Matajis. Thank you for coming to Krishna Life. I hope you learn a lot. And Mahotsav Prabhu is hopefully be able to teach you so much on book distribution, and you can take it back and do so much more there. So thank you for being here. So here, as Vidura is inquiring from, in this particular case, he's inquiring from Uddhava. And he's asking these questions. How is everyone doing? What's going on? What is the relationships of the devotees that are in Vrindavan or outside of Vrindavan? How is the kingdom running? How are the How is Mother Yashoda? How is all the cousins? How is everyone doing? Standard way of speaking in Vedic culture when you come together with another dear friend or another person who is knowledgeable or within that culture. So here we see specific questions being asked about Sahadev and Nakula and Sahadev. And Prabhupada makes some very important points in these purports here, specifically of this one, that the pure devotee of the Lord, specifically mentioned here, both Garuda and Partha, the Parthas are pet devotees of the Lord. Very important point. Specifically, this whole purport more or less revolves around that the protection, specifically speaking of protection, whether it's from the Lord or it's from the devotees of the Lord. Two aspects being discussed, where one, the two devotees, in specifically here, Garuda and the Pandavas, 5 Pandavas being protected, and then the 3 Pandavas protecting Sahadev and Nakula and Sahadev. So it is important point pushed here, especially mentioned in Indra, the king of heaven, carries a thunderbolt in his hand and is very strong, yet Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, was able to snatch nectar from his mouth. So the devotees of the Lord, although they themselves may not have independently, you'll see they may not be so strong when they are under the shelter of the Lord, then they have unlimited strength. They are provided strength by the Lord, just like the powerhouse provides energy to light, and it provides unlimitedly, as Prabhupada would often say. Although the light bulb itself can only exhibit so much, but the storehouse of that electricity is able to provide unlimited energy. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He is the protector. So in this world we see similar type of thing, protector and the protected. So why does someone generally want to protect someone? Why do people want to protect someone in this world? Huh? Love. Out of love, care, feeling sorry for them. But at the essence of it, you see that you feel bad. Why? Because there's some level of love relation that you feel like, if I was in that position, I would want to be helped. Just like if somebody fell over or something, some old lady fell over, immediately a young man should pick them up. That's a standard of society. If you don't do that, you're a scumbag. It's known. So those who generally, the protectors protect those who need protection. Those who are helpless, generally. They should be helpless, right? It's like if some big guy with muscles falls down, it's not like you're going to go pick him up. And it's probably offensive to him. It's like, hey, bro, you okay? Let me help you get up. He can get up on his own. So there's no inclination towards helping that person, right? He's not helpless. So there's no feeling in the heart that, I should go and help this. But if a baby is lying on the street, it's just by himself, a small little baby, then immediately there's that nature. Why? Because the protector and the protected. That is a natural inclination of anyone who wants to help. So, but we can also give the counterexample that sometimes people don't help. Like somebody is getting on the street. I've had experience, one of our devotees, just getting harassed. Didn't do anything wrong. But some guy, just crazy guy, is harassing a devotee. And other people see it. All the people around you, they're looking. He's getting pushed around. He's done nothing wrong. He's a smaller guy. The other guy is bigger. But nobody says anything. Why in that instance does nobody protect? Why? Okay, we have this nature to inclination to help people, but generally, even you see sometimes situation, it's like, obviously you don't want to be a part of that situation, even though you can see sometimes people are in a helpless situation. You just can't, it's like, you don't want to be a part of it. Why? Why?
It's not their problem.
Huh?
It's not their problem.
It's not their problem. It's not their problem. Why? Because I'll get implicated to it more. My sense gratification will be, it will be checked. I may get hurt. Or, we may not have the capacity to help. Just like when we were in downtown, there was this big guy just going crazy, just huge, muscly guy, just going and screaming at everybody for no good reason. But nobody can do anything. Even the police officers won't say anything. Those who are meant to protect, as their legal duty to protect you, they won't say anything to us. Why? Because they don't want to implicate themselves. Because you don't have the strength to protect. You don't have the strength to help someone. Because if the protector, the idea of a protector is that he should be able to help the other person. Otherwise, what is the use, as Prabhupada would say, of one drowning man helping another drowning man? Principle in life generally is to save yourself first. Because if you, just like in the plane, I'm sure you got on the plane, if there's a baby next to you or something, put your oxygen mask on first and then help the baby. Don't put the baby's oxygen mask on first. Because if you die, that baby's also going to die, even if it has an oxygen mask on. Because the plane may crash and you may be in the water and we need to get out quickly, whatever. So one needs the capacity to be able to help if one wants to help those who are helpless. So the platform of which we're helping people should generally, sorry, I've written a little bit of notes here so that I don't, my train of thought doesn't lose it. So we don't lose it, I don't lose my train of thought, but so we see that people generally can't help. But then we see in extreme, also other cases where you don't have the capacity to help, but you help anyways, right? Like a mother, sometimes a child, there's been so many cases, some cases where, maybe not so many, but some cases where the child is stuck under like some vehicle or something. She doesn't have the strength to lift that vehicle up. Some mother, how heavy is a car? How heavy is the Mazda? It's like, how many pounds? Huh? Couple thousand. But you see that she tries anyways. Or sometimes in situation where there's some shooting going on, the father will run and grab its son. Some extreme situation where you could die. You could die, but you'll see the love and the affection completely takes over, and the father or the mother or the brother or the sister, they don't care for their own lives. Similarly, we should have that mood in the Vaishnava, obviously, community. If a Vaishnava is in trouble, then we don't care for our own lives, that we simply go because there's love there for that devotee. So when there's intense love, there's no consideration. Who cares? Even if the guy is huge and you know you're not going to win, at least, you got to go try because there's someone that you love. Even though we don't have the capacity to help, we still go and make the effort. Why? Because love. Because of love. Protection. That loving relationship invokes that protection, invokes that affection. But the nature of this world is that nobody can actually protect. May be able to protect us from a few things. You got the police officers to protect from here and there. Some, thieves or people with guns, whatever it may be, to protect us. But ultimately, they cannot protect us from everything. They cannot protect us from death. So we need protection, and we all want protection. We're all seeking protection. We're all seeking shelter, right? That's our whole life. We're seeking shelter under someone, whether it's under the teacher at school, under our father, under our mother, under our boss, or under our wife or husband, such and such. We're always seeking shelter because that is our nature. We want to be in a peaceful situation, and there's no peace without shelter. You just can't have it. You can't have it. If you don't have a roof to live under, what kind of peace are you going to have? Similarly, if you don't have someone to guide you and teach you and give you proper advice to protect you, then what is the use of life? Then one cannot make much progress, and the value of life becomes insignificant. right? If we don't have someone to love in our life, what is the use? Right? It's like people commit suicide because of that. You can't find anyone. Like Maharaj was saying, well, we were discussing with Maharaj that even devotees at the age of 73 is still looking for the one to love. When will I find the one to love? And some people, they have a breakup and that ends up in suicide because they want to be under the shelter of someone, in love with someone. But the nature of this world is that generally, within this world, that is not really available because we do not have the capacity to give it. Nobody has the capacity to give us that protection. Even, like I was saying, well, even if the protector and the protector must be competent enough to protect. Otherwise, what's the use? It's like both people drown. It's nice, the feeling is nice. The feeling is nice of helping, but if you don't have the capacity to help, then what actually is the use? So when one takes shelter of worldly things, worldly people, worldly designations, this body, home, country, then he, although seemingly temporarily, may feel some level of protection, just like you have the army and the navy and the special forces and the SEALs to protect America. And they, build all these things and they make sure they organize all of these things. That one can ultimately not be protected from death, although they're trying so much. Trying to prevent everybody from dying, but eventually it comes and takes us. So we take shelter of fallible soldiers, then we will not come to the platform of that fearlessness. Because when one has protection, one feels fearless. As Prabhupada would give example, when a baby is with his mother, no problem. Not an anxiety in the world. The baby is very peaceful. Very, very peaceful. No problem. But as soon as it loses that shelter, then so much anxiety is there. So one has to take proper shelter, and under that proper shelter, there is fearlessness. As Prabhupada often said, as somebody asked either professor or somebody asked him, what is it like, as Dvibhuja Prabhu was telling us this, what is it like to be always with God? Prabhupada said, I'm simply fearless. I'm simply not scared. All of this just goes away. Why? Because there's no anxiety. There's no anxiety at all. Actually, Prabhupada says in the 6th canto, in this pastime of Vitrasura, says that anxiety only comes when one tries to seek pleasure elsewhere. What does that mean? It also means one tries to seek shelter elsewhere other than Krishna. Anxieties come. Fear comes. Then the question, what am I going to do in the future? How is this going to be? How is that going to be? But Bhaktivinoda Thakur and all our acharyas, they push us to take complete shelter, Atma Nivedanam, Atma Samarpan, throwing oneself at the lotus feet of Krishna, taking shelter of those feet. Why? Because Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanandara, Tatra Shibhujay Bhutir Duranitir Matir Mama. Where there is Krishna, there is victory always. Where there is Krishna and where there is Arjuna, there's always victory, opulence. What is the other two left? What am I missing? Morality and? Great power. Extraordinary power. So when you have those things, when one has extraordinary power, when one has, Shri, all wealth, there's no scarcity, but when one has Krishna, then everything is present, of course. Not that they're independent. So when one takes shelter of Krishna, leaving aside everything else, then he can start to experience that level of fearlessness in which people cannot get. Therefore, those devotees who are advanced, when devotees see them, when other devotees see them, or when karmis see them, it's like, whoa. You see their faces and you can tell, oh, this person is very bright. Is very effulgent. Why? Because he has no anxiety. Why? Because at every moment he's taking shelter of Krishna. And this shelter is not just when we're under anxiety. That's generally how, unfortunately, as conditioned souls, that is our tendency. We're coming because of distress. Like we see, Garuda is not Garuda, we're talking Gajendra. Gajendra, he's completely distressed. Under that distress, my spiritual master in those, I can't remember the name of Vishnu, in that Vishnu Sahasranam, he says that Gajendra for 10,000 years, what Bhagavatam describes, for 10,000 years, he was fighting this alligator, a crocodile. This crocodile specifically mentioned. And in those 10,000 years, he was trying to take shelter of so many other things. He was trying to take shelter, okay, once I get out of this, I can enjoy. Taking shelter of enjoyment. Once I get past this difficulty, then I can enjoy taking shelter of the idea of enjoyment in this world. Gajendra is taking shelter of so many different things. And finally he goes, okay, fine, forget it. Forget it. If I am, then let me surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and forget everything else. Forget it. I cannot save myself, he realizes. I'm fighting in water with a crocodile. It's like I'm at a disadvantage. Eventually going to lose. So let me surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and leave aside all else. Forget. In this nice painting you can see what he has to leave behind. Such a nice material situation is all these beautiful waterfalls and palm trees and he's got his family. All of these things, all of these attachments, he has to leave those behind, leave those aside, forget them, and completely surrender unto Vishnu. And only at that point, when he takes this lotus flower out of this water and offers it to Vishnu, Vishnu immediately comes. It's mentioned that he forgets, even Garuda has to catch up to him. He forgets everything. He doesn't tell Lakshmi, he just leaves. That same love that is exhibited in this world from a mother and a father, when somebody is completely helpless, when a dear one is helpless, Krishna being, of course, the most compassionate, most loving, most dear to us, immediately when the devotee surrenders, immediately he comes. In an instant, there's not a second thought for Krishna. Immediately coming, Vishnu just immediately coming, and Garuda catches up. Similarly with Draupadi, same thing. Holding on, trying to save herself. But no, forget it. I cannot save myself. And full surrender to Krishna. But generally our tendencies, those are pure devotees of the Lord, they surrender and they stay surrendered. But if we examine our own lives, generally when we're very distressed, we go pray. And that feeling of surrender comes. But then once those difficulties goes away, then we forget what is surrender. Then what do we go back on? Then go back to the platform of sense gratification. We forget. We forget what is... as soon as some happiness comes about, we're disturbed by it. Right? Shitoshna shukha dukha da agama apayana nityas tang stitiksha swabharata. That one is meant to be, whether happiness or distress, one is meant to be equipoised, just like the summers and winters. Heat and cold, such and such. But when soon as we get some level of pleasure, we forget Krishna. Even within devotional service, if you're conscious enough to recognize. When you start to even feel the bliss of devotion, we forget who the object of devotion is. And we try to enjoy that for ourselves. That is our conditioned nature. That is practically become our inherent nature because of being in this material existence for so long. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says like that. That it's almost like this nature of sense gratification has become inherent to us. Just because it's millions and millions and millions of years. And so as soon as we get some level of shelter and we get relieved of our miseries, then we forget that shelter. And then we think, well, actually I'm the cause of this. I did this myself. Why am I here? Because I did it. I'm such a great book distributor because of my lines and my ability to speak so nicely. It's just, I have it from a past. From when I was karmi, I have it. Or my ability to cook, or my ability to sing, or my ability to play instruments, such and such. Because, all me. I did it. That comes back pretty strong. Therefore, Prabhupada says one should always be scared of Maya. One should always be in a humble state of mind. In that state, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly, purely. But one generally takes shelter of his own mind. So then he puts himself in trouble. We've seen so many devotees like that. We ourselves, that we consider ourselves to be bigger than we are. And what happens? We fall down. And Maya slaps us, and then we have to really take the humble position. Really take the humble position. And it's embarrassing. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, right? So when we don't take proper shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and consider ourselves to be on that platform of being able to give shelter, not giving proper regard to Krishna, then we fall down. Then Krishna makes us look like a fool. We look like a fool because we're not on that level. We're not on that level. So one has to take shelter of Krishna, but that must be done properly. In my own life, I've seen devotees, okay, I'm taking shelter of Krishna, go to Vrindavan and chant so many rounds and live a very austere life. And do a lot of kirtan. And seemingly, externally, we're following the process of Krishna consciousness. But internally, we're harboring that desire to become like the Supreme Lord. To have that pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Actually, our enjoyment in the Supreme Personality of God's enjoyments and our, how do I say this? Because we're qualitatively one, we have, what Krishna likes is what we like. But the difference is that he's Purusha and we're Prakriti. We cannot enjoy separately from him. We enjoy the same things as him, but we enjoy on the level of as a servant, not as a master. That is the problem. So he is the master, he is the shelter of all. We cannot consider ourselves the shelter of others. So the devotee, he takes complete shelter of Krishna under the guidance of the spiritual master, under the protection of the spiritual master, and under constant protection of the spiritual master. Not just, okay, I took initiation, that's it. That's not taking shelter. It means constant, every day. There is constant association of the instructions of the spiritual master. Strictly following in that line. There's no problem in strictly following in this line of what Prabhupada has given us. And making Krishna the center and the only principle of our life. Radha Krishna prana mor jugala kishore jivane marane rati gati aar nahi mor. In life or death, I have no other refuge but them. They're the life and the soul. They're our only protector, no one else. And when we have such a consciousness, then you see Garuda, and the Pandavas, victorious, always victorious, cannot lose, although seemingly losing. Seemingly, the Pandavas, such a difficult situation, my God, won't give you a pin drop of land where you can put a pin into, not that amount. Completely, neglected, tried to be killed. So many years, so much pain. So much pain. Srila Prabhupada, so much pure devotee. Doesn't mean that, my spiritual master was saying like that. He's a pure devotee, and of course, he's always with Krishna, but went through difficulty. It's difficult when you're in Delhi and it's 100 degrees, 110 degrees, and you're exhibiting the pastime of being 7 years old, practically. It's difficult. The Pandavas found it difficult. But for them, in life or death, I have no other. There's no other shelter. There's no other refuge for me. Let me die. Who cares? Because this body is external anyways. Real thing is the soul. That will be saved. The devotee knows that as a fact. He does not question that. So when he takes shelter, he does not take shelter on the platform of material conception. We're not like the Christians and the Muslims and all these other materialistic religions. Now, if he gives me protection when I'm under trouble, then I consider him God. But if he does not, then forget about him. Because on the material, we think protection is just on the material platform. He has to do something for me. We expect him to do something for me. No. The devotee, he does not care. Okay, if Krishna protects me, great. If Krishna does not protect me, great, no problem. But he is my shelter. I'll always depend upon him. I do not care if I suffer or enjoy. That is not my purpose. My purpose is to give enjoyment to him. And what he likes, as we sing, as we recite every morning, he can do whatever he likes with me. He can embrace me or trample me. No problem. Devotee is tolerant. He does not care. Because he knows that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always there. He does not feel anything else. He doesn't find any other pleasure, no other shelter, no other life. It's only Krishna life, right? That's the only life we have. It's with Krishna in the center. And when we are in that proper state of consciousness and under that proper protection, then we can be sure of success. It may not manifest all the time externally as maybe, doing huge or being the next Acarya or doing all of these things, but it may manifest as becoming the pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's it. That's what we're trying to do, right? We're not trying to exhibit opulence. We're trying to exhibit the strength of devotional service, the power of devotional service. How a malecha like myself can come up to the standard of pure devotional service eventually. That is guaranteed. That is the power of devotional service. How a swindler can become a saint. So the shelter of Krishna, by taking shelter of Krishna, one gains great strength. Just like Arjuna, when Krishna left the planet, where did his strength go? A bunch of dacoits, just a bunch of thieves, basic thieves. Defeated Arjuna, who was the greatest of all warriors, fighting on the battlefield, no problem. But he's defeated. Without Krishna, we have no strength. We've seen that. Devotees are so great. Devotees are so amazing, huge, doing great amount of service. All of a sudden, they leave Krishna consciousness, fall out, finished, bang. Punarmushiko bhava. Become a mouse again. So when we think ourselves independent, after we take shelter of the Lord, and by the process of devotional service, we acquire so many great qualities, it is true. And then we think those great qualities are ours, and we did it. Then finished. Go back to where your karma belongs. So the Lord gives shelter to those devotees who love Him, who have attraction for Him, who exhibit that attraction by devotional service, by working for Him. How do they do that? How do we do that the best? How do we do that the best? Surrender to the spiritual master. Well, what practical activity do we do? Distribute books. Right? As Krishna is saying, those who do such, who give this knowledge out, they're very, very dear to me. They're very dear to me. And Prabhupada writes, The devotees are more merciful than Krishna. They're going out reclaiming the conditioned souls. Krishna says to the devotees, the devotees, but they're so brave. They know the heart of the Lord. They know that He wants these conditioned souls. And so they go out and they reclaim these conditioned souls by giving them Srila Prabhupada's books. So they do great work for the Lord. By doing such, one becomes dear to the Lord and one becomes a pet devotee of the Lord. One becomes very close. One becomes very dear. The Lord feels indebted. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would exhibit sometimes, so thank you so much for distributing even a couple of pamphlets. If the acharyas and the feel so pleased and happy by their disciples distributing these books in the knowledge and preaching the Krishna consciousness movement, that they feel, well, thank you, just like our spiritual masters, thank you so much for doing this. It's like, but the strength is only coming from Him. So, when one takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can become, and he works for Him, always depending upon Him, always thinking of Him, namaskuru, then he becomes very dear to the Lord. He becomes very dear. And when he works, as we see here also, he works, you see Nakula and Sahadev, they both are protected by Arjuna, Bhima, and Yudhishthir. Those three brothers. Similarly, in our devotional service, when we've taken shelter of Krishna consciousness, it's not that, we're seeing Krishna all the time and thinking like that, but often the more prominent case is that we take shelter of the devotees. Just like here mentioned, such a nice analogy, the eyelids are protected by the eye is protected by the eyelids. Similarly, if I'm examining my own life of devotional service, and I'm sure everybody can say the same, that they have protected us our whole life. That coming into devotional service, there's so much nonsense, Sahajism, feminism, so many different isms that, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, when I try to come to the platform of pure devotional service, all of these, Buddha, Jaimini, all of these philosophers come and try to take me away, but I shall stay very far away from them. Similarly, when you come to devotional service, even within devotional service, there's so many different ideas and misconceptions that try to drag us. Seemingly pure devotional service. But when we have good association, those devotees, they protect us just like the eyelids protect our eye. They really act like that. They really, we can see devotees just saved us from such horrible situations. You look back and then, you could have gone two routes in devotional service. And you look back and you see the other route and you see where the other devotees, where you could have gone that route with them, where they're at, and you go, my God, thank you so much, right? I could have ended up in a really bad situation, thinking what is pure devotional service. Not knowing that, thinking you're performing pure devotional service, thinking you're advancing, but actually you haven't moved at all. The anarthas haven't been taken out. You haven't made advancement in gaining taste of the holy name. There's no taste in reading Prabhupada's books. It was just some feeling. It wasn't factual. But we can, when we take shelter and we try to be sincere, and we really, surrender. Okay, how do I surrender? This is how to surrender. Okay, get on book distribution and get smacked around out there on book distribution. And get back to the ashram and then get sauced out by your authority for doing something wrong. And it's difficult, but if one can surrender to that, then one makes great advancement. One doesn't just take things cheaply, not just, devotional service is so wonderful, and we're all pure devotees and everything. No, we take proper shelter means to take that chastisement, to take what is reality, to allow other devotees to reveal our anarthas to us because we cannot see them. That is protection. That is difficult, but that's protection. The devotees of the Lord are acting on the behalf of the Lord to protect us if we are sincere enough to accept it. If we're not sincere enough to accept it, then we'll just end up in a situation where nobody will tell us anything our whole lives. And you'll go on thinking that, well, I'm chanting the holy name of the Lord, I'm becoming so advanced, so nice, and then we'll end up in a fallen situation. And then in that situation, because we're neophyte, we'll think, and still I'm advanced. Seen so many devotees steal the wife of another devotee, a brahmachari, multiple, not just one, and still think they're on the platform of, pure devotional service. Such a person in Vedic culture is fit to be killed with no sinful reactions. You steal the wife of another person, you can kill them and no sinful reactions, no problem. They're fit to be killed, actually. They should be killed. Veda, Shastra says like that. Of course, we don't do that now but that is the position. And for a brahmachari to do that, why? Because they've lost shelter of the devotees. There's nothing, no one can tell you anything. If nobody can tell you anything, then you're in a really bad situation. You're in a really, really, really bad situation. So we should always not try to be independent. That nature is there. But try to be dependent on the Vaishnavas and the Guru. They're both, as we recite often, Guru, Vaishnav, Bhagavan, Tiner Smarana Hoy. They're always remembering these three. Remembering Guru, Krishna, and the Vaishnavas. Remembering threes, we can overcome everything. We can overcome all difficulties, and our real desire will become fulfilled. Our desire will become completely fulfilled. That desire, of course, is Krishna, to serve those Vaishnavas, to serve Krishna. So when we take proper shelter, like, we see Garuda and the Pandavas, they've done, then we're always protected. We'll always be victorious. There'll never be a loss in all difficulties. Your whole life may be difficult. It's not guaranteed just because you come to devotional service that you will not experience any problems. I'm sorry. We preach like this sometimes, in devotional service. It is blissful, there's no doubt about that, but doesn't mean there's no difficulties. The whole life, you may go on in devotional service, the whole life just struggling. Just this problem and that problem, this problem. But it's important to understand not to become deterred by those difficulties, but take full shelter of Krishna like Garuda and the Pandavas and so many. Kunti, look at her difficulties. Gajendra, countless examples, practically every devotee. You meet in the Srimad Bhagavatam, who's not going under distress? What devotee in the Srimad Bhagavatam, when you read the Bhagavatam, is not going under some level of distress? Prahlad Maharaj is always blissful, but some difficulty is there. He's being thrown. He can't preach. So to think that there's no difficulties, and when those difficulties come, well, we immediately take shelter of other fallible soldiers. Life coach, mother, father, brother. No, we should take exclusive shelter of the devotees in Krishna. That is what devotional service is, especially under difficulties. So one should always remember this. And when we were in that position, then everything is conquerable. When one always remembers Krishna, there's that verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when one remembers Lord Chaitanya, all difficult things become easy. Doesn't work the other way around. Sometimes all easy things become difficult. No? So all difficult things become easy. So then, when we're connected, then everything becomes easy in the sense that it flows, the mercy flows. It's difficult, you got to work for it, but the mercy flows. As Shira Maharaj was saying, I don't know if you were there when he was giving that talk and he was mentioning about Mahotsav Prabhu's 55 Bhagavatams. You were there for this? Okay. He says that, how is he able to do it? How is he able to do it? Because he connected. One is connected to the mercy. One is connected to that line. And that empowerment is coming from Lord Chaitanya. As Maharaj was saying, Shivaram Maharaj was saying like that, directly empowered by Lord Chaitanya. And Krishna will directly empower us if we are receptive enough, if we have taken shelter. He will give us full intelligence. He will give us full intelligence to be able to do anything in His service. No problem. But we have to be sincere. We have to be willing to go through those difficulties. It's like even to establish this Christian Life temple, the amount of difficulties and the amount of years it took. It's ridiculous. Like we often talk to Vishnu Chitta Prabhu and Mahotsav Prabhu. We didn't know, like New York. It's just like, my God, it's just like nothing. It's like we're trying to preach and the devotees aren't being made. In 8 years, you've only made 2 devotees. And one of the devotees was Mahotsav Prabhu, so, it's quite significant, probably worth a whole ashram by itself. And is that because of him, we're also here. But it's a struggle, and there's like, what's next? What are we going to do? But as I speak to them, they say, well, we just took shelter of Krishna. There's nothing else to do. What are you going to go do yoga? It's like, you're going to go teach yoga? Going to go learn yoga? You're going to teach Ayurveda? You're going to do all of this? Okay, let's do all of these things. No, absolutely not. Let's just take shelter of Krishna. Let's distribute books. Let's do what Prabhupada says. Take shelter of the instructions of our spiritual master. Do the kirtan, do the harinam, do the books. And Prabhupada's promised it will happen. If you put Sankirtan in the center, a temple will fall on your head. So, and even after moving out of New York, in Atlanta, it was like living in Ram's house. That was a crazy situation. Getting kicked out of Ram's house. Somebody comes knocking at the door. You guys got to get out. Oh my God. And then being in that ponds. And then again, same situation. When are we going to get kicked out? When is the government going to come knocking at the door? When are your visas? Are they going to get, approval? The leader of Krishna Life and Temple doesn't have a permanent situation in the US. So much anxiety. But at no point did we take shelter of, did the devotees take shelter of anything else. Exclusive surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore now, look at the Bhagavatams. To others it seems like he's just going out and just doing them. And that's just, generally when you see results, you just see the result, but you don't see the work behind the result. Therefore, Mahotsav Prabhu is not puffed up. If you realize the level of worship he gets, to be able to handle that, it requires a lot of hard work to be able to understand what you have in order to not think oneself on the false platform, to think oneself a humble servant of the spiritual master constantly. One has to realize this is all the mercy of the spiritual master. Otherwise, fall down, instant. But one is connected because of that experience of taking constant shelter of the Lord, that He is the provider of everything. Then naturally there is humility, knowing who is the proper proprietor, actually the spiritual master. My body and my mind and my words and intelligence, it is not mine, it belongs to my spiritual master. He's the controller. When I'm nonsense, that is me. But when everything is going, when everything is flowing, that is Him. He's acting. When Mahotsav Prabhu announces book distributions like Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, this many, it's true. But it is to his credit that he's acting as an instrument. As Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita, if I can be given any credit, that I'm simply acting as the instrument of my spiritual master. That credit, there's full credit. So, when one takes constant shelter of the Lord, and he does it time and time again, he comes to that level of humility. He should. But if one has taken throughout his devotional life shelters of different things and somehow gone on, there will be that one point when he may get success, but he will become puffed up and fall down because he hasn't cultivated that consciousness of constantly taking shelter of the Lord at every step of his life. He may become successful, but that success will not last because it's on the false. He hasn't cultivated that proper consciousness. So by taking shelter, we can become completely victorious in all circumstances, under the circumstances which seem like impossible. And at the same time, if we forget that shelter, we may have everything, may have the temple, may have all the devotees, may have a huge book distribution, may have the farms, but if we forget that it is all coming from the mercy of the spiritual master and the mercy of Krishna, then everything will also be taken away, as we have seen in our movement. So exclusive shelter, never forgetting, always reminding oneself, constantly, every day, that must be there. So we're trying to do that. We're trying to do that here. And that is happened mainly because we're distributing books. That's it. That is our life and soul, really. The book distribution is why? Because it humbles us. You go out there, you are nobody. You can be someone huge in here, and you can give such a nice talk, and play such nice mridanga, and sing so nicely, and cook so nicely, and devotees can glorify you, but when you step out on the street, nobody cares. Nobody cares who the hell you are. It's such a humbling position, and then you have to depend on Krishna. And you can feel that dependence on Krishna, and you feel, I'm not acting, Krishna is acting. And you can offer your obeisances to your spiritual master at the end of that huge day that you do and realize it is not me. Then I can understand, there's some level of advancement in my devotional service. I'm completely offering this to the spiritual master. Immediately in my mind, this is my offering to you. So book distribution brings us to that level, and when we're on that level, when we're on that dependence, then you can chant your name, the Hare Krishna mantra very nicely for your whole life. Cultivate the proper attitude and mood and devotion. There's no anxiety. One completely free, fearless. Fearlessly preaching, as we learn from our own spiritual master, just fearlessly preaching under any circumstance. So this is some of the things that, when reading this, is so ecstatic how Prabhupada is putting all of these things condensing all of these things in these purports. So we can constantly take shelter of Prabhupada's books, distribute Prabhupada's books, read them, and live by them. As a perfection of life, you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to think of anything else. That's it. Be happy. Just dance, chant, and take prasadam, and take a nap, and go to sleep at night on time. That's it. That's all you need. That's all. It's very ecstatic. Very ecstatic. It's very enlivening, especially here. Especially here. Guru Maharaj said that, our Guru Maharaj said, there's too much life here. It's too much life at Krishna life. I can't stay here. I want to come to the kirtans all the time. I can't write my books. Vishnu Chitta Prabhu asked him to come back in September, and he's like, I would love to, but there's too much life here. I can't, I need to write my books. There's too much life. That's there because we're taking shelter of him exclusively. All our activities are directed towards him. I always, Premanjana Chirito Bhakti Vilochanena. But my observance, when Guru Maharaj comes, I look at all the eyes of the devotees. It's just love. It's like, wow, these devotees have real love. Everybody's looking at the spiritual master with real deep love. And when you look at him, he is the most beautiful person you've ever seen in your life. Nobody can match it. We were sitting with him one day, and he had his book, and he wears his chadar in that way. And I say, wow, this is the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen anything more beautiful in my whole life. we have that opportunity, we have that to not be attracted to anything else. Be attracted to the beauty of the spiritual master. It's nothing greater. This body is a stool. Becomes old, wrinkly, dies. Don't be attracted to anything else. Be attracted to the spiritual master and his Vani. And that's it. It's just go on. There's nothing else. You don't need to be a somebody. Just be a devotee. That's it. It's simple. So I've said a lot, so I'll end my class there. So if there's any questions or comments, please feel free to ask. You can make sure you turn the other thing on. Yes, Vishnu Chitta Prabhu, sorry. Make sure, is the DJI on? Is it green? Huh? Okay.
Hare Krishna. Sadhu, sadhu. So, I have a question.
Yes,
Srila Prabhupada writes, there's a couple of quotes in this regard. Also one thing that, so this is about, anxiety, and then there's also fear, taking shelter of the Supreme Lord. So Srila Prabhupada writes that in the kingdom of Maharaj Yudhishthir, there was no excessive heat or excessive cold in his kingdom, and there was no anxiety amongst the people. Not only were there foodstuffs in abundance, but no one was in physical anxiety. And then Srila Prabhupada further states that unless one feels happy, he cannot get fat. This is psychology. Eating, this is very interesting. Eating will not make one fat.
Wow.
When one thinks, I am quite all right, he will get fat. The hog is thinking I'm happy, the worm stool is thinking I'm happy, the Eskimos are thinking I'm happy, but who's actually happy? No one is happy. There is no happiness in this material world. And then, okay. So this is from 3rd Canto, chapter 33, text 28. It is said, according to Ayurvedic medical science, that if one is free from anxieties, he generally becomes fat.
Wow.
And then Srila Prabhupada, in this memory from, let's see, this is, I'm sorry, I don't know who this is. Okay, I think this is Uttama Shloka. He says that Srila Prabhupada said, I think it would be an ideal temple. I said, yes, Prabhupada, it would be wonderful. He said, how much do they want? I said, 500,000. He said, well, why don't we go there and ask if they'll take $300,000? How much do you have? We have about 40,000. He said, I can get you another 60. I said, we can try. And then Prabhupada said, Brahmananda said, Prabhupada, we have never given that much to anybody. Prabhupada said, that is all right. Give it to them and see if they'll take 300,000 cash. And then Prabhupada said, can you handle payments on $300,000? I said, Prabhupada, that's an awful lot of money. We don't want to purchase anxiety. Prabhupada slammed his fist on the table and said, no, there must be anxiety. Otherwise, we'll be sitting around eating prasadam and getting fat. There must be anxiety. So, can you elaborate on what is the difference between, because there's a category of people who think that they are happy and who don't have anxiety in life. Mm-hmm. And it seems that the symptom of that is they become fat.
Yeah.
And then there is anxiety in Krishna consciousness that Srila Prabhupada is saying, we must take anxiety. And then with that anxiety comes some stress, I don't know if I want to call it fear. It's not exactly fear, but there is something similar to that. But can you elaborate? What is the difference between these two? How do you know somebody is...
Yeah, ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss. So when Prabhupada is telling us, don't be ignorant. What is the movement for? You're meant to move it. You're meant to you're meant to preach. If you become ignorant and you forget the instructions of the spiritual master, you forget to preach, then you'll simply just be happy, that's all.
Yeah, actually, one of the reasons I'm asking this is because there's one particular devotee who actually found this wonderful quote about Ayurveda in the third canto, purports.
That means
And is pretty happy about that, and it's become pretty plump.
Nice.
And doesn't seem to be worried about things that he should probably be worried about. Anyways, that's one of the reasons why I'm asking this.
I guess when he sees me, he probably thinks this guy's just miserable. But yeah, it's just like you become ignorant, then you don't understand the mission of the spiritual master. You just forget. You don't read Prabhupada's books. Who is reading Prabhupada's books nowadays? You don't read Prabhupada's books, and then you don't have proper association, and then ignorance feeds of ignorance, and then you just sleep and eat, and that's all. And that anxiety of Krishna consciousness does give bliss to great extent too. Externally means like at least when we're doing things, it's like, my God, sometimes you're on book distribution and it's really hard and nothing's happening, but still there's bliss there because it's based on I'm serving Krishna. At the end of the day, even if nothing, no result comes, you can sit there and go, hey, look, I gave it my all, I tried my hardest. And personally, you feel that bliss. You realize there's we really tried and it didn't work out. We can't do anything about it. But he doesn't become disturbed whether Krishna is real or not. He becomes more enthusiastic to go on. So, because that's what preaching is. Preaching means anxiety. You want to preach? Welcome. Welcome to the life of distress, where you don't sleep enough. You get to eat plenty, but you don't sleep enough. People don't respect you. People don't want to take up Krishna consciousness. People don't want to buy books. So many difficulties come. So anxiety will be there, but that anxiety we take on for the spiritual master. It's like duty of a disciple. It is your duty to take it on. You have to do it. It's not an option. I'm sorry, you've been initiated into the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. You've been initiated under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada and under your spiritual master, who is the follower of Srila Prabhupada. You have to do it. Otherwise, it's adharmic almost. You get initiated into the mission to eat, sleep, and that's it. Take prasadam, eat and sleep, chant a few rounds, but no preach. One should preach. One should preach in all different ways. One may not be out on the street, but by prasadam, by providing that prasadam to those devotees who are going out, by keeping the temple clean, by doing all of these things, one should be involved in the mission. Otherwise, we'll fall down. If you notice, in the West especially, those who are not connected to the mission, not on the platform of any type of devotional service almost. Generally, basically karmis. So mission. Always remember that mission. Whatever situation, circumstance, time, place, circumstance, always mission. That is our whole goal, just mission driven. That's it. How to preach Krishna consciousness, anxiety of how to preach Krishna consciousness. So I don't know if that's fine. Mahotsav Prabhu.
Yeah. Mahotsav Prabhu.
Hey, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Pranam
Krishna.
Prabhu. So, firstly, that wasn't me who found that quote. I'm just disclaimer, okay?
What'd you call it?
So, the fat quote.
Oh, the fat code. Okay.
No, I didn't say you found it.
I didn't say you said it either. I'm just letting Chandan know. And then, okay, I know what he thought. That's why. Okay. So then, another point is that the dacoits, who basically stole all the queens of Krishna from Arjuna, the Acarya say that they were actually an incarnation of Krishna himself.
Yeah.
Of Krishna Balaram. Jiva Goswami writes that. So they weren't ordinary dacoits, and Arjuna is seeming, unwillingness to fight, and he was even unable to swing his Gandiva bow. It says that in the Bhagavatam, he says this, I'm not even able to swing my bow. It's all because he was so he was basically lost all hope in life. I mean, not all hope, but he was so much separation from Krishna that he couldn't even, sing the bow. And what's crazy is, how the spiritual masters, Sri Kalagyam, I was with, Vishnu Prabhu actually told me this, that before he came to America, before me and him ever met or anything like that, Guru Maharaj actually told Vishnu Prabhu, this was probably like 8 years ago or something. He told him that you go to New York and there's Mahotsav and both of you will be a very good team.
Jai.
He said that. And, in a recent lecture, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj was reminding me, he told me that, do you remember I told you that if you distribute Bhagavatam sets to Westerners on the streets, it'll revolutionize book distribution all over the world? Do you remember I told you that? And he was telling me, I said, yes, Guru Maharaj, I remember. And when I think about it, it's so true. That he said that it's going to happen. And somehow that day that we had the phone call, that was the first time there was this Mataji. She was walking by. I still have a picture of this actually. She was walking by, and I remember I told her like, Miss, are you a yoga master, blah blah whatever. And then I showed her the books, and I told her, my spiritual master, he's a pure devotee of Krishna, and if he's happy, Krishna's happy, and if Krishna's happy, the whole world is happy. So can you please make the whole world happy by purchasing this Bhagavatam? And she said, yeah, you know what? Sure, I definitely will. And then, she first gave $400, and then she gave like a tip of like $25 or something like that. So then I gave her a Bhagavatam and a Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Wow.
And that was amazing. I thought like, wow, this is probably
this was also when Mukundatta Prabhu was.
Yeah,
there,
Mukundatta
right?
Prabhu was
he
there.
Saw that.
Yeah. Yeah, and and then of course I was like laughing like a madman, and I was being crazy on the streets. And Mukundatta Prabhu was also like shocked to see this. He's like thinking, wow, he thought that there's something wrong with me. Probably is something wrong with me, but he was like very happy to see this, but it happened. It was like I was pretty surprised, but it actually happened. That's how I first started distributing Bhagavatam sets to Americans. Those were my lines. Of all the lines that you can think of, those were my lines for distributing the first Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita to an American. So it works. The process works. We just have to have faith in it. That's all.
Yeah, that's happened to me so many times on distributing Bhagavatams. I just tell them like, my spiritual master, I really want to please my spiritual master. This is his name. Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, he wants us to distribute this book. Can you please take it? When I was in convention with Nick, this is really wild. I was trying to pull up the text messages, but I couldn't. We were in DC working one of these cons, and I met this guy, and he took a sapta from me. He was really cool, and I got his number. And then I met this other guy, and then I kind of just lost track of it, and it was we were really struggling, and we're like, okay, I just sat down, chanted my Gayatri, and then got up, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to send this guy a text. Because I'd made he was like going to one of the centers and doing kirtan, and I was like, I'm going to try to give him a Bhagavatam set. So I just sent a text out, and I'm like, hey, I'm here, we wanted to get this Bhagavatam out, I would really please my spiritual master. And then I look at the text, like, bro, and then I look at Nick, I was like, bro, who is this guy? And I forgot his name, but I was like, James or something. Who's James? I was like, he's like, what are you talking about? I don't know who James is. And I'm like, I don't know who he is either. And then he replies, he's like, all right, I'll get it. I'm like, what? Who is this? And I completely forgot who it was. I didn't know who I was texting. And he's like, where are you? And then and then I told him my place I'm at. And I was like, and he's like, how much is the books? As I told him, look, this is how much it is. You just come and get it. He's like, how many books? 18 volumes. I was like, it's light. It's so light, I can carry it. I was like, yeah. And he came in, and then he came and he gave me $300. Gave me $320 or something like that. And then I didn't put the books in his hand before. I waited till he gave me money. And then I lift the books and I put, here you go. And he's like, oh my God, this is heavy. But it was just like a wild experience. I wasn't trying to distribute a Bhagavatam. I was like, man, I would please my Guru Maharaj if I can like just distribute these books. And I don't know if you remember that those first week that I started going out after I was almost dying and for a year. Guru Maharaj that morning, I heard a lecture from him and said, we should distribute Bhagavatams on the street. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I went out and I made this Mataji at Walmart. It's like my second day on books with Abhimanyu after a long time. And then I just told her, it's like, hey, look, like my spiritual master really wants me to do this. I heard a lecture from him this morning. I really want to distribute these books. Can you please take it? And she gave me, like, this is like 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, when we wouldn't even try Bhagavatams. I was like, anyway, let me give it a shot. I took 2 out with me. I almost did another one that day, but I'll just tell him that. It's like, look, these books, this is 5,000 years old. Our teachers have written them. My spiritual master really wants me to do them. Can you please take them? We're monks. Help us with $300. And she gave. And it's just like the power of that. I was just like, wow, it's really. And he does that all the time. People always ask me, what's Mahotsa Prabhu's secret? Anytime I ask him, I just say wild stuff. And then they take the books. And I'm like, that's exactly what he does. And it's like, wow. So yeah, it's like he's saying the spiritual master is just like trying to please the spiritual master, that sincere desire to please the spiritual master is like, it really like helps us distribute books like anything. It helps us do everything, just remembering him. Is there any other questions? I'm sorry. Okay, when should I go till should I stop? We'll take Mataji, do you have any questions? No, okay. Take one from Ram then. And then.
Hare Krishna. You can see, even you're saying like take shelter under the Lord and you get protection, but like remember when that there was a sage meditating on the water, he was meditating on the Lord, he was taking protection, but when he offended Garuda, which is a devotee, so we have to be careful. It's not just taking protection, but also when we offend, that protection can be taken away very easily, and we could fall down in that way. And you can see the topmost devotee of the Lord, which is Lord Shiva. Him, when he gave a boon to this demon, he actually went and take protection from the Lord. This demon was just chasing him around. He has the potency to kill anyone in this material world, but he still went and took protection under the Lord. Yeah. So you can see even devotees, they're taking protection, even when they have the ability to just kill. Yeah. Okay. All right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.